These are my predictions for UFC Fight Night, Ankalaev versus Guskov. I'll be going through every fight on the card, starting with the early prelims, going up to the main event. Alright, so starting off with Cody Gibson versus Abdul Hussein. I'm going with Abdul Hussein in this fight. Cody Gibson lost to Brad Katona, who's okay. But yeah, I don't think Cody Gibson... He's okay, and maybe he pulls off a win here, but I don't think he will. I'm going with Abdul Hussein. Next up, we have Ankalaev versus Mike Davis. This is actually an interesting fight. I'll be going with Ankalaev on this one, the undefeated fighter. I think Mike Davis is good, but when he runs into elite talent, I think, he's going to beat a lot of the lesser talent in the roster, but I think Ankalaev is a good fighter. I think he's pretty talented, and I think he will get past Mike Davis, but I don't think it'll be easy. I think it'll be a close fight. I don't know what the odds are for this one. Yeah, pretty close. So, that's my pick, though. Alright, moving on. Brendan Ribeiro versus Magomed Chalov. Brendan Ribeiro has been on a losing streak. Hasn't looked too good in his last few fights. I looked this fighter up. Guy's just been on a knockout streak, so yeah, I'm gonna go with Chalov. He's a major favorite, I think, for a reason. Moving on. Ishmael Bonfim versus Axel Sola. I'm gonna go with Axel Sola on this fight. His last fight against Mason Jones, even though he lost, it was super close, and I think he really proved himself in that fight. Bonfim's good, but he has lost a few fights, and he is shorter for the division. And yeah, I just think that Sola's probably just gonna kind of piece him up from the outside in this fight, and who knows, maybe even land some good shots and go for a knockout, because he's a good fighter. And I don't think... There could be grappling in this fight, and I guess Bonfim would probably have the advantage there, but I think this fight will stay on the feet, and I think it's going to be all 3 rounds to Sola. Alright, moving on. We have Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Sam Patterson. I'm going with Sam Patterson on this one, especially after his last fight against MVP. Not a great performance. I feel like he has something to prove to everybody. Because prior to that, he was looking really good. He was getting lots of finishes against fairly decent opponents. Can't think of any of them right now, but I do think Sam Patterson is a pretty good fighter. I think just when you have to fight someone like MVP, it can be frustrating for anyone. Ponzinibbio, I think he's also a pretty good fighter, honestly. Like, if you look at his career overall, I just think he's getting older. Lost to guys like Daniel Rodriguez. Yeah, I think he's just past his prime, so I think Patterson's probably gonna get the KO or TKO in this one. Maybe second or third round, I'm thinking. But yeah, that's my pick. Alright, moving on. So moving on, we have Dustin Jacoby versus Muhammad Saidov. I had no idea who this Muhammad Saidov guy was. and I was just gonna pick Dustin Jacoby based on that, but did a little bit of research, and I actually think Saidov is gonna win this fight. I'm probably saying his name completely wrong, but anyways, we'll just say Muhammad. I think he's gonna win this fight. He's also he's also a striker, very similar, like kind of kickboxer, similar to Jacoby. I just think it's the case of being younger, faster, stronger. Jacoby's really good, and he's been really good lately. I think he's had a few knockouts recently, and he's been on a bit of a win streak, but I do believe he is the favorite in this, which is kind of a bit surprising, but probably just because the competition level for Muhammad hasn't been too great. But all that being said, I'm going to go with Muhammad Saidov. I think this will kind of be, a good debut into the UFC, and maybe he'll stick around, and, a lot of these fighters this is a debut fight for them, from the region that they're fighting in. So if he beats Jacoby, he might earn a regular spot in the roster and stick around, and that's my pick. Alright, moving on. We have Walter Walker versus Thomas Peterson. I'm going with Walter Walker. I don't know if he'll get it done. He probably will get it done by submission again. I just don't think it's going to be as easy this time. I don't think Thomas Peterson's like super great or anything. I just think he's the most average heavyweight in the division. Just average at everything. Doesn't really excel in any particular area. But I do think Walker's going to try to get it on the ground and go for the submission. But who knows, maybe he ends up going for ground and pound or something like that. Or just gets a decision win. I don't think it's going to be his regular first round submission. But I could be wrong. But still, my pick is Walter Walker. Alright, so moving on, we have Abubakar Vagayev versus Said I can't say this guy's name. Isagatmayev. We'll just call him Saigid. Anyways, I'm going with Vagayev in this fight. I actually did my research on this one. Saigid's actually had a fight in the UFC, and I remembered after looking him up, I remember watching it. He lost to Nicholas Dalby, who isn't the best fighter in the division, and he actually got out-wrestled by him. Vagayev is actually more of a striker, but he's got really good wrestling as well, I think. Just overall well-rounded fighter. Really good takedown defense, that sort of thing. Good pressure. Yeah, so I'm kind of just basing it off of that, and I think Vagayev is also a champion in whatever organization he's in. I could be wrong about that, because I was looking at a bunch of different fighters today, so I might be mixing it up, but I was more impressed watching Vagayev's highlights versus Saigid. I know I'm butchering all these guys' names, obviously not from my region of the world, so it's tough. But anyways, that's my pick for this fight. Moving on, we have Rizvan Cunha versus Tyrell Fortune. I'm going with Kuniev in this fight. Fortune was, he's kind of touted to be an up-and-coming prospect, and, there were some eyes on him on his debut fight. To me, he just didn't perform that well. It was okay. It was just a very uninspiring performance, I suppose. Just kind of slow, and I think it was on short notice, so maybe that had a lot to do with it, and maybe he'll surprise a lot of us in this fight, and who knows, he might actually be a good underdog pick. With all that being said, maybe with a good training camp and time, this guy actually is really good, but basing it off of their previous performances, I mean, Kuniev almost beat Blades, so gonna have to go with Rizvankouniev in this fight. Alright, so now we have who everyone's calling John Pork. Which I'm just gonna call him that because his real name's actually very tough to pronounce. He's taking on Damian Rzbetsky, who I looked up for this one, and because they're both undefeated, and I do think that John Pork is gonna win here, you know, and you know, he's got the momentum, the fandom, the name, the nickname, you know. But I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. I wouldn't be surprised if Rzbetsky picks up a, you know, bit of a sneaky underdog win here, because he is also really good. I just don't think he's fought anyone to the level of, you know, one of these Dagestani guys. Like, you know, they kind of bring a different level of competition for a lot of fighters. Although Poland, where Rzbetsky is from, they've had a good run as of late. They have a lot of good fighters as well, some underrated fighters. I think it's just going to be a close fight, but I do think John Pork's probably going to win. I just don't think it's going to be like a wash. I don't think it'll be super easy. It'll be competitive, good fight, entertaining, you know. And I think they're both probably going to earn a spot in the UFC as regulars. I think they'll both put on a good performance, maybe fight on the night, that sort of thing. But yeah, anyways, moving on. Islam Dulatov versus Wellington Turman. I mean, this is... What are the odds on this one? I didn't even look. Oh yeah. Minus 900, plus 600. Obviously, yeah, I just think Dulatov's gonna win, probably by knockout. Not much to say on this one. Be a crazy upset if Turman gets it done, but yeah, don't see it happening, so we're going with Dulatov on that one. Alright, moving on. We have Steve Erceg versus Ramazan Temirov. This is a tough fight. This is actually a really close fight. A really tough one to predict. Both guys super well-rounded. I think Erceg has the edge on the feet. Temirov has the edge on the ground, grappling department, but both good all around. So, you know, they could just kind of equalize each other, equal out in a lot of areas, and unless one of them dominates in one of those areas, like by a landslide, you know, I think if Temirov is able to just hold Erceg down the whole time, then he kind of has like next level grappling, in my opinion. Because I just don't really see that happening for this fight. I see Erceg being able to keep it on the feet. I think he's going to struggle a lot to keep it on the feet, but I think he ultimately will. And then I think he might get a finish, like a late round finish and late in the third, or, you know, maybe it's just a close decision, split decision. You know, this is actually a very tough fight to call, so I am going to go with Steve Erceg on this one. Not a confident pick. You know, he's in enemy territory as well. But he's been on a good run as of late, and I know he's trying to get back to the top and get that belt back. And I think if he gets a win here, they definitely need to start putting him up against the guys from the top 5 again and giving him that respect he kind of deserves fighting at the top. So that's my pick. I'm going Steve Erceg. Alright. Now for the main event. I'll be going with Magomed Ankalaev for this fight. I just think he's too much for Bogdan Guskov. I think if Guskov, you know, he couldn't beat Blachowicz, I don't think he's going to beat Ankalaev unless, you know, I think really his only chance is if he catches him the big hook or something knocks him out. But Ankalaev's gonna be mad. He even said he was mad in a tweet or something. After his last loss to Pereira, you know, he's got something to prove. Another guy that wants to get his belt back. And for Bogdan, like, he's kind of just entered this set of the top, you know, the top 5, the top 10, like these top guys. He's getting these top matchups kind of for the first time in his career. And so yeah, I just think he hasn't fought anyone like Ankalaev yet. That being said, it could be a good fight, you know. It could be pretty close still, but I'm gonna go with Ankalaev winning either by decision or by like a late round submission or knockout. I think maybe if Guskov gets tired in the later rounds, Ankalaev might take advantage of that. So yeah, that was it. Not the most exciting card, not the biggest card, not a ton of fights on this card. But anyways, it's card nonetheless. Those were my picks. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.